in these conventions and the casinos in Las Vegas. I mean, everybody knows that it's the adult entertainment playground. Everywhere you go, there's super celebrities walking around. And we ran into a few of them in our travels, let's just say. I will be perfectly honest with everybody who watches this show. I am not on my game today, okay? I'm really not. I'm not used to working, 80-hour weeks in the field trying to put together these types of shows, again, with only one person supporting, and that's my man, Dan French. But I do see an old friend up there in the cyber world, the internet world. There's David Rabinovich. David, guess what? You're on, buddy. Can you hear me? Are you there? Well, he's there, but he's going to turn on his audio. So he's working on that, I think. I think he is. I know he's got a Ben Weiner jersey up over his shoulder, though. I can see that. And we'll connect with David in a second as we continue here. I could give you some news of cannabis this week. Let's talk about these two conventions. First of all, these are the two largest cannabis conventions that I've been to, certainly since the pandemic. And there was a big difference between the two of them, okay? And one, MJ BizCon, did not ask for vaccination status, just followed the guidelines that the Las Vegas Convention Center and Authority put forth on the pandemic, and they had taken over two separate locations. So the show automatically was, instead of one location, they spread it out. David, do I hear you now? I don't. No, I'm actually hearing myself in delay here.
So you're hearing through his loop.
I'm hearing it through David's loop? Okay, so he's not listening the right way. Does he have to put on a headset or something?
He may have to.
So David, if you have a headset, you can put that on. That would be that'd be helpful, because otherwise I'm hearing myself on delay. Which back in the day when I used to, I hear you. I just heard you. You said you can't get in.
I can't get in.
I hear you though, and it sounds like you're in. And now he's texting me too and talking to me, so it's really confusing. But
the right way? Does he have to put on a headset or something?
Oh, now I'm actually hearing myself ask if David should put on the headset or not. So
Okay.
What's that, David? You are in. He just texted me. You don't have David's number? Text
No,
him.
I'm in, but
Okay, I hear you, David. And now
I'm here.
I know, and
Holy cow.
and you did. You are. No, but can you hear me? Yes or no?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. How are you?
I'm well, Jimmy. It looks like I'm doing a little bit better than you are.
Oh yeah, I've
You
had
a bad hair day today.
I'm having a
for me.
bad. I've had a.
You're fine. It's just
It's tough. You know what? We're in a studio outside of Las Vegas, David, and we were lucky to find this studio. And it only happened because my buddy Neil Portnoy, who's a Worcester native, by the way, has his own gallery here in Las Vegas and is a very old friend of mine. And he knew that Aaron had this studio around the corner from his studio. So guess what? Here we are, and we're trying to make it happen, because this couldn't have happened at all if we were going to rely on the Wi-Fi that's available in downtown Las Vegas. Anyway.
so.
All right.
Jimmy, how's the show been?
Well, I was trying to fill time there. I got to tell you, David, overwhelming. I'm totally overwhelmed. I'm overwhelmed with a lot of things. One thing in particular is, first of all, a huge success if you're MJ BizCon, because you had 1,200 vendors, maybe not as many as you had from around the world, but you had plenty of people that came into this from around the world. They had usually been in one convention hall at the Las Vegas Convention Center. They've spread it out over two halls. So automatically, the number of booths were split up. They had a separate hall of flowers for all the growers out there. And like every trade show, you meet a lot of people, you see a lot of old friends, and it's really special this time around, because this is the first one they've had since 2019, December. And everybody's just chomping at the bit to get outside and see each other again. And that's not unique to the cannabis industry, right? But in the cannabis industry, everybody loves it when you can actually see and hug each other and embrace. And that's been the biggest takeaway from this. I've had a lot of great interviews. We actually have a lot of great content. Not all is going to make it into this program, which means we have plenty of work to do and plenty more content to share all next week on our pro cannabis media outlets that are out there. David, how are things with you?
Jimmy, with you in Vegas, we're having a great time.
You haven't missed me, although my sports teams have had a bad week, haven't they?
I don't know. Ben was screaming the other night when these grand slams started going.
Yeah, but that was a win, and they haven't won. He's been very quiet the last few nights. Am I right?
No, he finds something else to watch to get him
Right.
excited.
Fair
Or he
enough.
screams at him when they do bad.
So interesting, different shows out here, David. Everybody knows that MJ BizCon's been around for 10 years, okay? George Jage, who is one of the co-founders of MJ BizCon, started his own little, I don't want to call it a rogue trade show, but it definitely was more geared towards investors, people looking to raise capital and get in front of capital. In fact, you saw all the biggest names. You probably can rifle them all. Viridian Capital, ArcView, everybody.
ArcView.
Right. They all had little rooms in addition to the showroom, the convention area, the trade show area, where there were not as many booths, but it was spread out. Again, you definitely felt the impact of the pandemic. In fact, MJ Unpacked, you couldn't get in unless they knew you showed your vaccination card, downloaded the app that you had to scan your photo ID in so they could actually confirm that vaccination card that you were using was accurate and tied to the hospital or wherever you got that shot from. So you felt very comfortable in the whole registration process. Here's the issue, though. Most of the people that showed up at MJ Unpacked on Thursday, had just spent the day at MJ BizCon on Wednesday. So you know what I'm saying? It's like, did we all do the registration thing and we all had vaccinations and then did we run into anybody at MJ BizCon perhaps and bring it over to MJ Unpacked? I don't know this yet. Okay.
Well, so the event that you're talking about with the investors, that's MJ Unpacked.
Correct. That's George Jage's one. And that was tied with the Blues Brothers had a great concert here in Vegas. Dan Aykroyd and Jim Belushi were up on stage with that whole band and closed to all video, I might add, because I did ask, but the band said no video. So guess what? No video means we don't cover them. It's just how it works. I'm not going to fight City Hall that way. But the investor breakout rooms I thought was a great idea. And, MJ BizCon has become such a huge event in the city that it's not just about the trade show. It's just about coming to Vegas and creating your own event almost and bringing your own people into that event. So there's satellite events and satellite parties all the time. It's really, needless to say, there's a reason why people say things about Las Vegas that, and forget the fact that, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, all those cliches. All right? This is all about making deals, right? Having meetings with people. I was getting stopped a lot in the aisles, David, believe it or not. I had my funny little mask on that looked just like me. So there was that recognition factor that I was playing as I was doing like a mini focus group. And I was pleasantly surprised with how many people heard of not only Green Rush Live, but Pro Cannabis Media too. It made me feel very proud.
Good, Jimmy. And how many of them asked you where I was?
Two people asked for you.
Wow, that's great.
Two people, you know them both. Let's just leave it at that. But Scott Newman in Adaptive HR, Brian Wall from Adaptive HR as well, and the other sponsor of our travel here is Greenspoon Martyr, which is a major law firm celebrating their 40th year in Colorado with a very active cannabis practice. And we actually have some footage of one of their special sessions, which, by the way, they gave us access to. Because, David, let me ask you this. If you go to a trade show and you can either walk the show, have a booth, right, or just go to the panels. But it's so tough when you're on the floor of the trade show to get what's going on in those panels, right? Well, we had access to one of the panels, a breakout session from Greenspoon Martyr. It's all about social equity. And let me just, this is going to be more of a casual show here rather than a tight broadcast. So Dan and Aaron, do we have that video? It would be the Greenspoon Martyr social equity one. Yeah, I think that would be the best thing to do, just to kind of sit back and listen a little bit to hear one of the panels that we were able to record, get some footage of, so you can get a feel for the type of competition. We're ready to go on that? We are. So David, will he be able to hear it, Aaron? Wow, that's a big thing too. I love this. So David, sit back. This is the Greenspoon Martyr breakout panel on social equity. Let's give it a listen. I think, is Nick Richards and Jerry Greenspoon any of their principals? Yes. Okay, it's a you know what, guys? It's a clip, as they say in the old Johnny Carson. We've set up the clip. Let's roll the clip, then we'll discuss after. Does that work, David? It works. All right, we'll be back. Don't go away. Check it out.
I think social equity, we don't really know what that looks like yet. I'm not sure that we have a clear picture of that. I've been asking, people, what does that mean? What do you think that means? And I don't get one answer to that. One thing I hear a lot is, look, we want to be heard. We want to be part of the process. We want to be heard. And I'm not sure that's happening in these regulatory rollouts. And I wonder about that. And I also think that it's great. You can have a license, but it's a super tough industry. It requires capital. It requires, all these different things, and there's all these big barriers around tax problems and all this kind of stuff that they're set out there to make you fail. And so great, we're going to give you this license that's going to allow you to take a big chance and spend a bunch of money, and it is in many ways set up to fail when we look at the federal side of that. And so I don't think the landscape is really there yet, Jerry. I think we got to figure it out. There's work to do, and sadly, it seems like it's going to slow up the bigger process, right? Which it's again, is that where we want to go with this? I wonder about that.
Well, I think if you ask certain legacy operators, some of them would say yes, but you want to slow the process, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there are plenty of people in this country that make a living doing what would be considered quote unquote illegal, but they make a living that way. They're not harming anyone. I think everyone in this room agrees that cannabis is no longer that, like, doesn't have that stigma that, oh my God, and reefer man and stuff. That's gone. It's out the door. So they're selling. It's a drug, but it's a drug that we all consider safe and legal, and we're simply telling them it's illegal because you don't have a license yet. And they're saying, well, then make sure I'm part of that licensing process. However you have to do it, figure it out. And so, to your point, how do you define social equity? And each state defines it differently, but that is a very important piece of this. Is how do you define it? Because there's plenty of people in Illinois that found a way to meet the definition of social equity. They're not the people you think are social equity applicants. So that's a very important piece. I think you hit it right on that. Like, how do we define it, and who needs to be in the room when we have that conversation for when we come up with that definition?
By the way, Nick, anything on the horizon? Any changes with respect to the Colorado regulatory scheme?
So Colorado we didn't have social equity, and we recently created a social equity program, and there was a license that Colorado didn't have yet, and that was the delivery license, and so they carved out that license specifically for social equity candidates, made it available along with cultivation, delivery, and other licenses, and then Denver, for example, has really pulled back on issuing other licenses, right? And so really right now, the new licenses in Colorado are the social equity applicants in many ways. And that fit, right? When we were talking about social equity, the conversation was, wait a minute, I've been working really hard to build this business, and now I gotta give some of that to somebody else? I don't understand that. And we found a way, right, where that didn't have to happen. And we'll see if it works. It's brand new. It's just Jerry, we've had licenses for maybe 3-4 months now. So we're just at the start of it. The problem is that delivery's tough. That's a really tough one. And there's a lot of big tax issues and problems around that delivery model. Once again, here's this license, have a good day, right? So hopefully there's more to it.
Yeah, which brings
And welcome back. Welcome
I've
back.
been working really hard to build this business, and now I got to give some of that to somebody else. I don't understand that.
I feel like I'm a ventriloquist. Somehow or other, there's another voice going here. All right, David's on the phone. That's okay. Oh, he's calling me. That does me no good. Tell him. Anyway, welcome back to Green Rush Live as we continue to get it going here on a Friday afternoon in Las Vegas, Nevada. I'm Jimmy Young from Pro Cannabis Media, and we're working in a brand new studio with new people. Great guy, do not get me wrong. It's always a challenge whenever you're working with new equipment and new people to know exactly what your capabilities are for the particular show. I can tell you this, we're going to give it our best shot for as long as we possibly can. We did have David Rabinovitz on with us. I think he's back with us. I don't know until he starts talking, and then I can see him. But what you watched was a panel from Green Spoon Martyr. This, again, they're celebrating their 40th year in business. It's a major law firm out of Colorado with a very active cannabis practice. And holding the microphone in the right side of the screen, you saw Nick Richards. He's one of their principals. On the far left side is Jerry Greenspoon, and we have actually an interview, not this second, guys. I'm not going to set this up just yet, but I know that we have it with Ann Brum from a joint venture who was at that breakout panel and interviewed Jerry Greenspoon as well at that little discussion between the attorneys there. A reminder, like, share, and subscribe to Pro Cannabis Media's content on all the social media platforms that are out there. You're also watching us on the Go Live Vegas app that you can get on your Apple App Store and Google Play Store. And I want to, again, thank Aaron Elikis for that from the Go Live Vegas studio. It's very cool. David, are you with us still? Are you back with me?
I think so, Jimmy. You
Yes.
have to tell me.
Yes, I hear you fine. I see you, and it's good.
So you're frozen on my screen.
Yeah.
I can see you on YouTube, and this
Okay.
is going to be the most confusing show we've ever done.
Yeah, but
that's okay.
that's all right, because next week, David, this is where I get to throw it to you to talk a little bit about what we're going to be doing next week when we get back into our home state of Massachusetts and have the ability, like we do on a regular basis, of reaching out through our little Zoom room, through the various technology that we use to get the amazing amounts of guests that we have. And you've got a subject next week that everybody wants to talk about in the cannabis business sector. I mean, the interview that I did, hang on a second. You remember Dimitri Downing from Arizona?
I think so.
You would remember him if you saw him, okay? And he's a intense, passionate guy. And the interview that I did with him, well, parts of it, most of it actually, had a lot to do with interstate commerce. And we will be sharing that not only during the week on our Pro Cannabis Media social media platforms out there, but also at the top of your show. Because as I've told you in the past, I want to make sure that people understand I want this to be your show. And I know that I think Kurt Dalton has agreed to join us. And you've got an incredible lineup that you guys have put together. And all I'm going to do is set up the show at the beginning. And I'm going to go into the chat room. And I'm going to let David and Kurt kind of co-anchor the show and let this thing unfold. But talk to me. Let's tell the audience again, especially new people who may be the first time watching Pro Cannabis Media Live, who's going to be on that show and what the plans are for it. Go ahead.
I'm about to, Jimmy. Let me ask you a question. Just let's do a little bit of housekeeping, because obviously, to a degree, we're out of our normal element.
You think?
But Jimmy, okay, on the screen is a local Las Vegas phone number and a toll-free number. Here's
Correct.
the question that's being asked in the chat.
Yes.
Can people dial in?
Yes.
Okay, folks, you just heard it. Miguel, Yogi, you guys want to be heard on the air, just dial that number and get in. So while everybody's reaching for their phone, next week's show is going to be the most exciting show that we have produced to date. And here's why. There's a lot of discussion about legalization versus decriminalization, and we've talked about that at length. And we've talked about what are the big players in our industry, companies like TrueLeaf and Curaleaf, and many of the other MSOs, and how they pale in comparison to the really big companies that will eventually get into this space. But right now, what we have are a number of in closed markets because marijuana doesn't legally travel across state lines. Robert Mikos is a professor at Vanderbilt Law, and he maintains that the states cannot stop interstate commerce. He believes it's legal today. And next Friday, we're going to take the deepest dive into a subject that we have ever taken. We're starting off with Professor Mikos, who'll be with us. We've got Steve Hoffman, the chairman of the Massachusetts Cannabis Control Commission. Bo Whitney, he is an economist and runs Whitney Economics. He had been with New Frontier Data. If you do a lot of reading in cannabis, you will have seen his name at some point. Frank Siegel, who's the cannabis practice chair of Burns and Levinson. That's our starting panel. Then we've got David Holland, who is the legal director for Empire State Normal in New York, and he's the president of the New York City Cannabis Industry Association. Adam Smith, who's the founder and president of Alliance for Sensible Markets. Bruce Barcott, we've had him on the show several times. Bruce is the senior editor at Leafly. Ed D'Souza, a local entrepreneur.
Ah, he lost his video too. And we apologize for the technical issues that we're going to have today. It's just the nature of trying something for the first time, what we're doing here. And David was running down the whole lineup for the Interstate Commerce show, and he got down to Adam Smith. I did hear Stephen Hoffman, the commissioner from Massachusetts Cannabis Control Commission, will be joining us as well. We're going to continue to get David in here. I'm pretty sure we have Matt Hawkins from Entourage Capital coming on that show as well next week. So that program, that lineup is like a dream team for people who want to hear about whether or not we're going to see and have a capability to actually have interstate commerce before the federal government ever figures out what the hell they're going to do with this industry that is, I believe it's a $225 billion cash industry projected right now by the industry. So at some point, the federal government will have to figure out a way to actually do their jobs and govern and come up with policies that make sense for this industry. We all know that Senator Schumer, Wyden, and Cory Booker from New Jersey all put forth an ambitious plan to at least start the conversation amongst the elected officials on the potential for creating a legalization market in the United States of America. You live to see the day that they were actually talking about it in Washington. However, we haven't seen much work or movement or anything since that middle of July day when they announced that initiative, if you will, to open up for public comment. Since we're still going to try to reestablish our connection with David, I think I can set up another video to that goes back to it, sure. And the video that we're going to try and set up now is with Ann Brum, who's the host of A Joint Venture, which is one of the shows that we carry here on Pro Cannabis Media and PCM TV. She had a chance to interview Jerry Greenspoon from Greenspoon Martyr on that panel that you just saw. He was the gentleman on the far left of that panel. Nick Richards was holding the mic on the far right of that panel. And we have it, and we can go to it. Let's check it out. Don't go away.
Good afternoon. I am Ann Brum, filling in for Jimmy Young on Pro Cannabis Media. We are here at MJ BizCon 2021 at the Greenspoon Martyr event. Today we have our guests. I'd love for them to introduce themselves and talk a little bit about their work here in the cannabis space as a law firm.
Hi, I'm Jerry Greenspoon. I'm a managing director of Greenspoon Martyr, and basically came up with the brainstorm of founding the cannabis practice about 8 years ago, realizing the enormity of what we were embarking upon at that time, seizing upon opportunity, and excited to be here now in 2021 at the MJ Biz Conference.
Excellent.
I am Irina Dushevsky. I am a partner at Greenspoon Martyr in their newly opened Chicago office. But I came over from Lock Lord with our team, and we've been focusing on the cannabis sort of regulatory scheme nationwide, mostly east of the Mississippi, but now we have west of the Mississippi covered.
Excellent. Well, thank you for that. And I'm really excited about what's happening on the East Coast, and would love a little insight on your plans to support and expand in there.
So That's a great question. It's very interesting because when we began the practice, we immediately headed to the West Coast because that's where everything was happening and that's where all the experience really existed. But then just recently, over the past few years, the Midwest and the East Coast markets opened up and presents an enormous opportunity. The regulatory schemes that are either in place or coming into place, the opportunities, the population, of course, that exists in the Midwest and the East Coast is so exciting to us. And this is where we now see the real opportunity and growth for many, many, many years.
And with Irina, we were talking a little bit before about your work recently in New York. Can you give us a little prelude as to what you're anticipating there and for the practice in supporting that regulatory framework to come online and live?
Sure. So, after Illinois dropped and the market opened up, and we kind of learned our lessons, saw what it was like to do legalization and create a market through legislation, which I think Illinois did provide a good blueprint, despite being mired with delays and litigation. We focused because it seemed New York was doing the same thing. They passed this piece of legislation. It's pretty sparse. A lot of it's going to get filled in through regulation. I've been heavily focused on New York. I've been going there a lot over the past year, meeting with regulators, meeting with stakeholders. A couple big takeaways that I have is I think that they want to create a lower barrier to entry. Social equity is on their mind. It's extremely important. There's a massive legacy market, and it's a multi-billion-dollar industry. When New York goes adult use, it will be the largest, most important market, I think, in the world, just based on population and the money that'll be there. And so I think you've got a plat for that, and I think they're trying to avoid some of the pitfalls that other states have had. And it'll be really like Illinois. Sure. Very different states. In Massachusetts, it's a real slog. It's been heavily criticized. They should be far more competitive as a state that's been online way before the rest of the East Coast, and yet they're not. Because of the way that it's governed from the local level, it's made it very, very difficult for businesses to get open and get running, even though it's not a competitive licensing scheme. I think New York will be different, and what they did differently from Illinois to ensure that more participants are in this massive market. And that makes sense for New York. It's kind of like the place where small business survives and thrives. They don't want you to be vertical. So they're precluding certain license types from being held by one company to ensure more participants in that market, which is a little different than what Illinois did.
Girl, you know. Well, thank you so much. Please check them out here at Grinspoon Martyr, and thank you both very much for taking the time. You are watching Pro Cannabis Media. Have a good day, everyone. Bye-bye.
All right, welcome back to the Go Live Vegas studios in Las Vegas, Nevada. I'm Jimmy Young from Pro Cannabis Media. And again, a thank you to Aaron Ellicus, who is directing this and trying to keep it all together. We're also really happy to hear about new people who might be checking out this show. Pro Cannabis Media is a live streaming website, Roku channel, Apple channel that does news, talk, information, and educational content about the cannabis industry. Okay, this is what I built for the last 18 months during the pandemic. David Rabinovitz and I have hosted a show on Green Rush Live. I'm still hearing Ann in my ears. I do want to thank Ann Brum from A Joint Venture for doing that interview with.
Thank you so much. Please check them out here at Grinspoon Martyr.
David, you have to turn down your audio. So whenever your audio is up, David, it bleeds into the broadcast, but we can't really do much about that at this point. Now that's over. But Ann Brum did that interview with Nick Richards and Irina Dashevsky, and yes, there's definitely a little video delay and so. David, you need to turn down the audio on your end. I don't think he's hearing me. David, can you hear me? David, Earth to David Rabinovitz. David, hello. David, Is that a still frame or is that actually live video, right? Okay, I had to do that to him. And he was doing a great job of outlining our big show for next week as well. This is kind of funny. So he doesn't even know that I'm talking about him right now, right? That's kind of funny too. We can connect with him maybe and talk to him. I do want to again thank Ann Brum from a joint venture co. to do that interview with Irina Dashevsky and Jerry Greenspoon from Greenspoon Martyr. And also want to put a shout out there to Adaptive HR from Massachusetts. They have.
David, you have to turn down your audio. So whenever
Oh, great.
your
Now I
audio
hear.
is up, David,
Is there-
we delete
Da-
the broadcast. But,
Now I'm hearing
That's not my audio, Jimmy.
Well, look, I'm working with people in studio, David. This is what they're telling me. I'm hearing myself in reverb in my ears. It's a little confusing, but we're getting through this. I mean, what can I tell you? We've got a few more pieces of video we're going to play, and
3,
we're going
4, 5, 6, 7.
I have a caller coming in from Seattle, Washington. Okay, so what do I do?
David?
Hello, no, it's Jimmy. Who's on the phone with us?
Oh, shoot.
There you go. You're live. I can't figure out who this is, but we've taken a live phone call for the first time. Who's this? Is this Yogi?
It's Miguel.
Miguel is on. Terrific. Miguel, how you doing, man?
I just want to add to your chaos.
Add to my chaos. Thank you. I really appreciate that, especially after the week I've had. You know, it's a young person's field. Where are you calling from, Miguel? Where are you calling from, Miguel?
I'm calling from Seattle.
I love Seattle. Man, I cannot wait to get out there. All I do is hear great things about Seattle. You've been a regular watching our show over the last few months, am I right?
Yeah.
So do you like what we do here on Pro Cannabis Media?
Oh, no, big fan. You know, I'm part of Cannabis Legalization News, that channel.
Oh, cool. Oh, I get that. Is that with Thomas Howard, that guy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm the better looking one.
Oh, I'm going to tell Thomas that, okay? But that's okay. We don't judge. We do not judge. Hey, so when you're in Washington, the state laws there have been established for a long time. You guys have had a mature market. Do you feel like there's some normalization in Washington? Are they accepting the fact now that cannabis is going to be part of the future economy out there?
I think the citizenry, you know, the people, the common, whatever, so I've been a part of the scene also, like during the medical days, like
Mm-hmm.
I've been paying attention and whatnot. And it's so funny because, you know, during the medical time, you have the people who are truly sick or those who just, you know, just see it as being wrong to go to jail for a plant. And so you get a pretty special group of people when it's just, you know, medical, and you have to actually fight to be a part of it. And then when recreational kicked in, it was neat to see a lot of new people who were older, you know, buying weed for the first time in years. But it also was frustrating to think like, well, where the fuck were you the past 15, 20 years? You know, like, I mean, and I get it though. You know, that's kind of like, as Americans, we're just different levels of participants. You
Right.
know?
No. And I had an amazing, very emotional interview with a friend of PCM and a survivor, a former pediatric nurse who suffered a traumatic brain injury about 5 years ago and never thought about cannabis being used as a way to alleviate her pain and her anxiety and all the things, as we know. And she told her whole story, poured it out, and we'll be sharing that this week. But one of the things that you point out is, again, it's a different product for everybody, and I think that goes, once you understand how it works, it really does make sense. If it's working with our endocannabinoid systems, and every one of us has it as a mammal, right? Whether you use weed or not, you've still got the endocannabinoid system in your body. And by not feeding it some of this, these plants, these cannabinoids, the various chemicals that make up for this, you're not actually giving your own body a chance to excel. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you that it's a cure-all. Even Nikki mentioned it. It's not a cure-all for everything, but it can help you. It's a tool in the human brain toolbox that can be used to enhance your life. Now, I do see that David's back with us. David, can you hear me now? No, he can't. Miguel, should we make fun of David? No, we don't. We want to make David. David he's been great. Can you tell me a little bit more about the Cannabis Legalization News show that you're on and how long you guys have been doing it?
Yeah, Tom and I, we've been doing, so Tom started his channel, and then he just asked me to jump in with him to, we just started doing the Google Hangouts and recording it that way. And then as we kept meeting more regular in a schedule, that's when he started refining like the SEO and putting behind, because I've been blogging about legalization for over 10 years.
Yep.
And activist side about over 20, most of my life, you know. And
you guys make me feel guilty. I'm late to the party, but I support your efforts, okay? I'm talking about the advocacy part.
No, I feel you totally. I know the thing is, like, I grew up with a plant. Like, my mom had a plant in the backyard. She used to get weed from my great grandmother on my Mexican side. Like, she would put it in rubbing alcohol for her ailments. So I grew up with this benign plant, knowing that, like, why are we putting people? It's the biggest disservice we do to wellness, right? I mean, we know it does fight cancer. It's anti-inflammatory. It does a lot of different things, but we're all different people. So. Right. How it gets tailored to that person, that's what it's hard for people to understand. It's like, for a wellness thing, we're sick. I think our society is sick because it's not an option, right? We can take all the vitamin C and other vitamins you want when you're deprived of your body, but your body has an endocannabinoid system, like you're saying. It's just part of you.
Right. That's right. And God put this plant on this earth for medicinal purposes and has been used for thousands of years in that capacity. It took a campaign of misinformation driven by racism in this country 80 years ago in the 1920s, and that led to the Prohibition and the Marijuana Tax Act. And Lord knows if Professor Rabinovitz could ever get the technology going again and figure it out and get back in here. He does a business and political history of cannabis in the United States, and he presents at the New England Cannabis Convention and other conventions and various webinars and what have you. It's fascinating stuff. I've learned quite a bit.
Oh, yeah.
Because of his digging, and you know it too. I mean, I get it, Miguel. I mean, this is at this point, all that stuff is now being shared with. And fortunately, it's the cannabis-friendly public. And this is one of the things that I rail about at MJ BizCon here, because they continue to drive people into the event and put a premium on the information that's shared inside the event. They don't want to share it with the other outside of the world. Now, granted, you could pay to have a live stream and watch the conference, and that's great, and I certainly encourage that. But there's no public service announcements at all available because it's still a federally illegal product. So you can't explain this to the curious public that isn't the cannabis enlightened public. Do you get what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah. No, well, the problem is you have to steer people to different, like, NIH studies and all the boring stuff. Nobody wants to sit through that stuff. Nobody wants to, why is it during the pandemic everybody become an epidemiologist? Like people are lazy when it comes. They're very easily swayed with the. They just want a Facebook post to have all their answers. And besides the wellness part of cannabis, it's also like, why is it easier to put people behind bars than it is to release them? And that's because of our process. Right. The legislation process is so convoluted.
Right. And we heard Judge Clarence Thomas, one of the more conservative Supreme Court judges for a long time. The federal laws are contradictory to what's going on in this country right now. It was a great comment that he made. During the pandemic, essential businesses, cannabis medicine was an essential business, whether it was available at the adult use level or not. Massachusetts, their governor did not allow that because he thinks he's God in some way. But anyway, I'm sorry about that. I'm sorry about that.
Well, no, but you did, but on the constitutional side too, all these people who become I always joke that every pothead's a lawyer or a doctor because we all know the law because we're all trying to avoid going to jail. But the constitutional side, as far as like liberty and happiness, I'm about to tonight 420. I have a broadcast going live with Chef Anna, and this guy left. I think it was somewhere in the South. He left to go to Detroit, Michigan, and to start a grow with only, I think, $5,000. Now he's got a little empire going on, and he's able to give away free weed and post it on Instagram. Like, the guy's got a great lifestyle, all because of a plant.
Free weed is a
that's
gift.
what
of-
everybody should be entitled to.
Right.
Go ahead.
The whole premise of free weed is a gift from God. When you get right down to it, it just is. Try it. It's not going to kill you, and you're not going to just try it and see if you like the darn thing. Hey, look, Miguel, you've been great, and I know that you've been active in our chat room, and David is the guy who's in the chat room on a regular basis. So I know that he's thrilled because he's the one who wanted to make sure. Oh, you got me on another camera. Wow. I don't even know where to look. I train people to look.
That's awesome.
There's so many cameras in this studio. Do you have a wide shot, Aaron, of this studio? Look at this. Is this cool?
Can you ask them what program are you guys using for the call-ins?
What's the call-in program? Well, you struck a nerve. He says it's all proprietary. And by the way, this is a really beautiful studio at multiple six figures. Okay, let's just say. So it's But you know what? You bring up a great point, Miguel. It's one of the things we've been trying to figure out. I want to do a video call-in talk show because for many years I was a sports talk show host in Boston and in New England, and I loved taking calls and interacting with callers. And Miguel, you're the first cannabis caller we've ever had on this show. So you made some history, man.
The first one in the world.
Yeah, well, there you go. Well, I'll tell you what. We're up against the top of the hour. We're going to take a break at the top of the hour, Miguel. I'm going to give out the phone numbers on the screen. So if anybody else wants to give it a shot and come in, and Lord knows, we're not on delay in case you haven't figured that one out. We're just happy we're live streaming, and we have a decent audience this afternoon. This is probably a great exposure to a lot of people who haven't seen what we've done on a daily basis at Pro Cannabis Media. We live stream 24/7 on our website, our Roku channel, our Apple channel. Whenever we do a show like this, we get onto our Twitch and our Facebook and our YouTube channels, and I really appreciate the following that we built. That's how I'm going to leave it at this point.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my underground lair.
There's noises coming out of the studio. I was like, who the hell is that? Where did that come from? Oh, boy, we're going to have some fun. We're going to take a break. I want to throw to something specifically. How about Shanty? Because Lord knows I need a break, and I'm not going to take it until after this show is over, Miguel. Everybody who knows I have an on-the-clock, off-the-clock mentality. I'm still on the clock for another hour. We're going to be here for another hour. I'm trying to suck it up, as they say, and take one for the team here. Miguel, you've made a little history with us, and I will never forget that, and I thank you for calling.
Take care, Jimmy.
You bet. There goes Miguel. We're going to go to Shanty break, and we'll probably pick up another video on the other side before we come in. Don't go away. Green Rush Live continues from Las Vegas, Nevada.
Yeah, this is a tune that I wrote back in 1900. I've forgotten. We had a saying in our old band, one of my first bands in 1966 or so. What are you going to do tonight? Oh, just, like every other night, just going to lay around the shanty and put a good buzz on. Gonna sit down in the kitchen, fix me something good to eat. Make my head a little high, make the whole day complete. Gonna lay around the shanty, oh mama, and put a good buzz on. Pass it to me, baby, pass it to me slow. We'll take time out to smile a little before you let her go. We're gonna lay around the shanty, oh mama, and put a good buzz on. You're on something. Go ahead. Rick Brodsky, everybody. nothing to do and there's always room for more. Fill it, light it, shut up and close that door, baby. We're gonna lay around the shanty, mama, and put a good buzz on. Take it, okay. Prohibition never works, it's time to realize it. It grows in my backyard, it's time to legalize it. We're gonna lay around the shanty, mama, and put a good buzz on. I'm gonna sit down in my rented car, I'm gonna jam it into drive. Gonna head on out and play at WSCA with Sean, I'm glad I'm alive. We're gonna lay around the shanty, mama, and put a good buzz on. Every night and day, we're gonna lay around the shanty, mama, and put a good buzz on.
Nice. It's Friday. Thank God. Thank God Jonathan Edwards is joining us live in the WSCA studios.
I'm Christopher Smith, publisher of the American Cannabis Report, bringing you the roundup from the great cannabis state of California for Weed Talk News. All of our news this week is from our NorCal Cannabis desk. The first story brings together three elements with a complicated history in America: Native Americans, gambling, and cannabis. The Dry Creek Rancheria Band of the Pomo Indians owns 277 acres of land in Petaluma in wine country. The local government had been negotiating against building a new casino, and the tribe said, okay, no casino, we want cannabis. And the county seems to agree. We've been working with the tribe and we understand and support their need to diversify their portfolio, said Senior County Supervisor David Rabbit. Sounded very grown up. Everybody seems to be playing nice so far, so let's move down the 101 to San Francisco, where the Board of Supervisors this week unanimously approved a measure by Mayor London Breed to make changes to the city's 3-year-old cannabis social equity program. The new legislation enhances opportunities for small businesses as well as social equity licenses and prioritizes applicants that are both. It also allows businesses more flexibility to grow. San Francisco seems to be saying, we don't need none of your stinking superstores in our town. And across the Golden Gate Bridge to the Marin County District Attorney's Office, where on Tuesday, they dropped or reduced 604 cannabis crimes committed prior to 2017, as allowed under the state's cannabis legalization law, Prop 64. The DA's office worked with Code for America starting in April 2019, and after meticulous review of almost 2 years, ultimately was determined that 604 people involved in 514 cases were eligible for the reduction or dismissal. And now let's skate northeast on the I-80 to Sacramento, where Governor Gavin Newsom signed AB 45, which allows for the inclusion of hemp and cannabinoids, extracts, or derivatives of hemp in food and beverages, dietary supplements, cosmetics, and processed pet food, provided that they, among other things, contain less than 0.3% THC, the definition of hemp, of course. Packaging is required to say the FDA has not evaluated this product for safety or efficacy, to which most people say, I don't care, give me my CBD. Even your dog knows the good stuff from God's favorite plant. And I'm Christopher Smith from the American Cannabis Report, sending peace and love from Cannabis Heaven, California, for Weed Talk News.
All right, we're back. Here we go. Go Live Vegas. I'm Jimmy Young from Pro Cannabis Media in the studio today, doing a call-in show that I haven't done in 25 years. What can I tell you? Yes, that phone number, 855-502-4321. David Rabinovich, if you're still watching, you can call in and I can talk to you on the phone. We may not be able to see that adorable little face of yours, that little putum, but hey, you can at least talk and we can keep promoting next week's show. And again, a special thanks to Aaron Ellicus from Go Live Vegas here in Las Vegas, Nevada, which is where we've been for the last week, taking in the culture, the business, the panels, and all the cannabis news that's out there. That was Christopher Smith from the American Cannabis Report with our California report. You'll see Christopher's reports regularly on We Talk News. That'll all return next week at its regular time, streaming live at Friday at noontime. And then right after Green Rush Live at 6 p.m., all on the East Coast, because that's where we're from, okay? I'm from Boston. I make no excuses. This is where I'm from, and I can't change that because when you're a kid, you go wherever mom and dad take you. Oh, look, there's David Rabinovich calling in. Now, do I pick up? Oh,
Jimmy.
David, I hear you. How are you?
I'm good.
Now we won't have any issues because we're just talking to each other over the internet. How cool is that, right?
That is so cool, Jimmy.
Hey, we're trying the best we can here. I got to do a shout out right before you and I get back to our little chat about Christopher Smith for a second. 400 episodes of American Cannabis Report. I believe this week he just did his 400th, and he's one of our regular correspondents on We Talk News. We're a big fan. Christopher was supposed to meet us here in Las Vegas, and you know what? At this point, now we know we're this close to L.A. David, it's so weird to like get on I-15, and it's like, heading towards Los Angeles. Do you know what I mean? It's like, how did I get here? It's just nuts being out this far away from Massachusetts. Anyway, you've seen and heard from Miguel. Was that very cool? One of our regulars, or what?
That was a great thing, Jimmy. Really is.
Well, we appreciate everything that you've done for us too over the last couple of years, and with Green Rush Live now and over in its second year of existence. And you were just about, I think the final panel for next Friday's show is when we lost your video feed. So if you want to take us back to where who's on that final panel. I don't think you mentioned Matt Hawkins. I think he's still coming on from Entourage Capital.
Our final panel's got Ed D'Souza, who's the managing partner of River Run Gardens here in Massachusetts. Mm-hmm. It's going to be great to hear from the perspective of a small grower how it could impact his business if interstate commerce is allowed. We'll have Matt Hawkins from Hawkins, founder and managing partner of Entourage Effect Capital.
Yep.
And the last one, I can't remember his last name. I'm a little embarrassed. I just was introduced to him recently. He is a partner in the same law firm as James Cole out of Washington, D.C., and knows the legal side of marijuana inside and out. And I think he's going to help out with some great insight as to this dormant commerce clause issue.
And, of course, you just mentioned James Cole, and I did give you a plug as I was filling there and telling a little bit about how when you do your presentation on the business and political history of cannabis in the U.S., you always talk about the memos, and the Cole memo is really one in particular that changed a lot of things as far as the federal government goes and their treatment of the cannabis industry. How'd you like to give us a little tidbit of David Rabinovich's preview on the business and political history of cannabis in the U.S. according to the Cole Memo? Tell us about the Cole Memo, David.
Okay, sure thing, Jimmy. So the Cole Memo. Let's actually step back a little bit further. So in 2009, I believe it was, the David Ogden, deputy U.S. attorney, published a memo, and he was addressing the legalization of marijuana in, I believe, Washington State, some of the activities going on up there, as well as what was going on in Colorado, and trying to give guidance to the local U.S. attorneys as to what they should do, what they shouldn't do, and where the guardrails are.
Mm-hmm.
Much different from the Department of Justice. They saw it coming and they knew they had to respond to it, versus the FDA that stuck their head in the sand like an ostrich and still can't get out of their own way once CBD's been legalized. I mean, one of the things everybody's got to bear in mind is take a look what happened when hemp was legalized. The FDA, because they just ignored it for so long, they can't seem to get anything done. If marijuana is legalized, we could end up in a case where now all of a sudden you can't sell anything that's THC infused because the FDA hasn't cleared it yet. So there's a lot of interesting things that could happen. But anyway, a couple of years later, James Cole issued the first of 3 memos. I believe the first one was 2011. The second one, I believe, was 2013. Very important was the second one. That is the critical memo, because in that memo, the Justice Department laid out the 8 enforcement priorities. And the gist of it is as follows. If you are a state and your regulations cover these 8 enforcement priorities, then the feds are probably going to let you run your markets as long as you're enforcing these priorities and leave you alone. That doesn't mean they'll leave illegal growers alone or illegal operators alone. I mean, we just saw that up in Massachusetts, we had a huge home delivery operator, got caught a couple of years ago and was sentenced earlier this week to 4 years in jail. So it's not a case that they're just turning a blind eye, but they are leaving licensed operators alone. And then and that was instrumental, because once Cole issued those 8 enforcement priorities, state regulators knew what they needed to have in their regulations to satisfy the federal government. And you'd see when the states would adopt the regulations with those priorities in there, the issues covered, all of a sudden you didn't see so much in the news about the feds raiding parties in that state. California continued to have problems because it took them so many years to get the regulations in place. And the final Cole memo was February 14th, 2014. Interestingly enough, it was the same day that a companion memo came out of the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, FinCEN. And it was the FinCEN memo was about, it was essentially an 8-page manual on how a depository institution should bank a cannabis business. And they are required to file suspicious activity reports when they receive cannabis deposits. But this memo said, look, if it's a business that you believe is operating in compliance with state law, then file your SAR report and let us know you really don't think there's anything wrong. You're just filing it because you're supposed to. And if you really think something's wrong, note it on the report so we'll know to look at that report, right? So we've got, just under 700 institutions across the country that will bank cannabis businesses in 2021. Yet 7 years ago, the federal government issued a guideline to say, if you're going to bank a cannabis business, here are the things you have to do. It's kind of hard to be expected that the feds are going to come down on you when they gave you the manual about how they want you to handle marijuana businesses. So the Cole memos, if you want to understand the structure of the industry, the Cole memos, the Ogden memos, and a few others are critical to read, because it gives you great insight as to what could happen, right? I'm very focused on the technical side of when interstate commerce comes into play, what it's going to do to the markets.
Absolutely.
Right? We're not going to have $4,400 weed in Massachusetts when you can get on a plane and fly it back from California at less than half that price.
Right. And speaking of banks, a news item, and again, I'm going to give credit to Tori Chamberlain, a new news producer that's working with us. She brought up what happened with the Scottsdale Research Institute this week. And I don't know if you knew this, but the second largest bank in the nation decided they weren't doing business with a cannabis research company. That Scottsdale Research Institute, we should reach out to them, David. They've been leading the way on a lot of these
absolutely.
Cases into the Supreme Court, getting research and what have you. But Bank of America was handling their finances until earlier this week when they sent a letter saying it was terminating their relationship. And after a careful review of the banking relationship, the action will final and won't be reconsidered. So wouldn't you know it, Bank of America, not friendly to cannabis research. That makes absolutely no sense to me at all.
I'll give you another good one, Jimmy.
Go ahead.
MassCan, the Massachusetts Cannabis Reform Coalition, one of the oldest cannabis advocacy.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. Yeah, yes, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Jimmy.
I just asked Mascot. Are they still in business, David? Mascot?
They're still in business.
Okay, go ahead.
So you're talking about one of the oldest cannabis advocacy groups in the United States.
Yep.
PayPal closed their account and PayPal basically won't discuss it with them and won't give them back the money that PayPal is holding for like 4 to 6 months.
It's crazy. I don't know.
It's crazy.
The whole thing's crazy. It is. I think next Friday's show, you're right, David, it's going to be spectacular. I know you're very, very pleased with it. I know you and I will talk more about exactly what's going to go on in that show, in and out of breaks and that sort of thing. You have so much talent lined up. I give you a lot of credit for this as well. And the next few weeks, we get some great shows. And we're live streaming on places today, and with the Go Live Vegas app on the Apple Store and the Google Play Store, and some people are probably discovering Pro Cannabis Media for the first time. And you know what? Maybe that's what we're going to take away from this week. It's been an amazing week, and we really have a bunch more videos to get to. David, what I'm going to do, I'm going to say thank you for your efforts to be there for us every week. Thank you for calling in, and I'm going to try and fill for a couple of more minutes. I'm going to open up the phone lines. I really liked it when people called in. That was very cool that Miguel called in. I haven't had that interactive experience in probably 25 years since my last radio call-in talk show, so it's a lot of fun. So you don't mind giving way to somebody else who might want to chime in, do you?
Not at all. Go right ahead, Jimmy.
All right, David, thank you, and we'll see you back in the Eastern time zone, and I cannot wait to get there, if you catch my drift. All right, man. Take care.
Have a good flight. Talk to you later.
You bet. That's David Rabinovitz, and he is a regular co-host with us on Green Rush Live. A reminder, so you can reach me if you want to call in at 855-502-4321. When you do hear the answer tone, just press 1, and that will get you directly on, right, Aaron? That just pops right in, right? Wow, that's great. So if you want to give me a call, you can at that number. It's right there on your screen. And I'm gonna...
When this baby hits 88 miles per hour, you're going to see some serious shit.
It's like, wait a second. That's Back to the Future. That's kind of like what we're going through here. This is really weird, but we're making it happen. And I thank everybody who's working on this so hard just to get to the point where we get to be live at a time slot that we're always live on the internet from 4 p.m. Eastern to 6 p.m. Eastern, 6:30 if you count We Talk News as well. And that happens every Friday on our PCM TV networks. All right. So we got a few more items and a few more videos that we can share with you. And I believe we have this was me on the floor, right? This was me interviewing a gorilla. Am I right, Dan? So, when you go to these cannabis trade shows, not only are the characters there and the amount of investors that are looking and the growers that are there, but there's so many ancillary businesses. And one in particular creates these incredible styrofoam images of different things that catch your attention. So I'm walking down the aisles and I spotted one. And here's the clip. One of the most amazing things about these cannabis trade shows is you never know who or what you're going to run into when you go to these trade shows. Like, what in the world does this giant ape figure that's carrying a Thor hammer have to do with cannabis? Oh, I get it. This is a prop, right? This is a prop. Most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. But I mean, it's fun. Everybody comes around, they pick it up, they want to get pictures. So I'm doing the same thing. Now I want to bring in Jeremy Hoxie here from Britain Woodworks. Jeremy, first of all, what's this stuff made out of?
This is made out of foam. So it's all routed and milled out of foam and then coated with a hard coating called frog skin that we use to protect it.
Okay, and exactly, besides these giant joints, what does your stuff have to do with cannabis?
Gotcha. So foam in general, our company as a whole, we have foam, woodworking, metalworking, and we build stuff. So when it comes to cannabis in dispensaries, we design it, we build it, bring it to life from rendering to completion, entire store build-outs, entire marketing activations, we do it all.
Now you're from Michigan. This company's from Michigan, right?
Correct.
Yeah, we know a few people in Michigan. Going to do a shout out to Rick Thompson, one of our favorite people in Michigan. You don't know Rick, do you?
I do not, but I would love to.
You're going to know him at some point. He's going to reach out to you, I promise, all right? Now, this is a great prop. How many people have come here and grabbed this and taken a photo? I mean, this attracts people to your booth, right?
A lot, yep. Yeah, the whole concept is bring people in, something a little different, a little less boring than a traditional trade booth. Get them in, let them have fun, let them take pictures, and we're starting to run out, so hopefully they last through the rest of the show.
Well, it's not like people are smoking them. It's not real, right?
It's not real,
Okay, that's unfortunately right. Well, later on tonight, we'll take care of that. All right, so that's that. And does this gorilla have a name?
We call him the Hulk. It's a little boring, but it's effective.
Okay, I got a name for you.
I would love name suggestions.
So back in the day when I actually was a college guy, Tufts University class of '79, our fraternity, Theta Chi, we had a mascot, and it was an ape. Okay, because we were all into the old Planet of the Apes movies, where apes were superior to humans, especially if they did right by other apes, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
This is going to be Massive B Ape.
Massive B Ape?
Massive B Ape.
Okay.
Can you handle that?
I can handle that.
It's original as opposed to the Hulk. You know what I'm saying?
It's true.
And I'm bequeathing you.
Hulk or Harambe. It's between the Hulk and Harambe.
All right. But that is Massive B Ape, and it's now yours to use in whatever way you'd like.
Perfect.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Pleasure doing business with you.
Absolutely. Nice.
Get my mask. I'm live, so I said I'd love to get my mask. It's loose, man. Relax. It's all good. We're back. All right? I don't know if you guys saw on that video clip, I had a mask that was really my face. And I got it from collage.com. And I got to tell you, it was one of the hits of this week. I must have made hundreds of people laugh just because they thought it was really funny. And you know, what does that mean? I have a funny face. It's okay. It's my face. That's what I kept showing people. It's like there's no difference. Some guy thought I had actually bought the face from a generic template. Now I have a mask. Wow. That's like the magic of video. That is so cool. That's very cool. By the way, I didn't even ask, but I'm guessing you guys all did the disinfectant of the microphones, and of course you did, right? You know, we used to do a studio out of Quincy, Mike Zotto's studio out of Quincy. We'll give him a plug. And I remember when COVID hit, the first thing he did was we're going to clean everything and sanitize everything. And just a crazy time right now. Welcome back to Green Rush Live. We're here every Friday, live on Pro Cannabis Media's social media platform, all over the internet, on your Apple and your Roku and your YouTube and your Facebook and your Twitch, and our own website, procannabismedia.com. Please like, share, and subscribe to our content as we continue to document the end of cannabis prohibition in the United States of America. It's what I started for. It's why I started this company, to give the industry an opportunity to tell their stories. Still a little frustrating. There's a lot of infighting sometimes in this industry that bothers me, because there should be more of a spirit of collaboration and cooperation. And it actually was a theme that Chris Walsh, who is the CEO of MJ Biz Daily, talked about in his annual kind of state of the industry address and his subsequent news conference that he had with us. And we'll be sharing that over the next few days on our social media platforms as we continue to take all the content that we've created here and share it with you. We really wish we had more of the content that we've done to share, but I got to tell you, it has been a very frustrating and long week here, just because of technology and the amount of people coming out of the woodwork and everybody using Wi-Fi at the same time and making it happen. A reminder, 855-502-4321 is the call-in number. And if you do call in, press 1 and you can join me in a little chat about cannabis. And if you'd like to tell your cannabis story, you could come out of the cannabis closet and tell us your story. What role has the plant played in your life? Has it changed your life? Has it saved your life? I can't tell you you how many times we've heard those stories. And we heard another one today from our friend Nikki Lawley, who was so awesome. She opened up her beautiful view of the Bellagio fountains and the Las Vegas Strip, if you will, to us to do an interview. And again, we'll be sharing that. That'll be one of the interviews. I also sat down with a one-on-one with Nick Richards from Greenspoon Martyr. We also want to thank Adaptive HR for helping us out this week, and we're putting together a little let's just call it a news story for Adaptive HR's trek to Las Vegas, and they were here. We also had a great dinner with one of our supporters for a while here. Her name's Ashley Elsner from Artery Pay. We got to go out with Ashley for dinner last night with the rest of the pre-CM crew, and that was really worthwhile and really a lot of fun to see a lot of faces that I've only seen in Zoom calls, now in 3D. So in that regard, it was quite good. We do have one more clip, Ronnie, his report, right, Dan? So as you know, We Talk News. Let's talk a little bit about what we do on We Talk News here for a second. Let me set this up. Every week, we've got correspondents from all over the country sharing their thoughts and news items from their states, from Vermont, Jesse Lynn Dolan. Phil Adams from the Vote Pro podcast does the D.C. report for us. We also get Rick Thompson to call in from Michigan. Michigan's a huge market, by the way. And we're now adding in Missouri with Brandon Jones. I got his name right, didn't I? Finally, got his name right. Thank you, Brandon. Appreciate it. Dion Osborne's going to be joining us from Oklahoma. And we also get a report. Well, actually, she's back. Deborah Borchardt, one of the most respected reporters in our industry, has done the Green Market Report now for a number of years. She was just recently acquired by another media company and is now working for them. And she now has been cleared to rejoin us on our We Talk News program with her Green Market Report every week. And that'll be coming up again next week on our PCM TV distribution network that we have. But another guy that does our Massachusetts report is a recent graduate of Emerson College, and Ron Marshallsea does a great job for us once the anchor can actually pronounce his name properly. And here's his Massachusetts report. We'll come back on the other side. Don't go away.
I'm Ron Marshallsea with the Massachusetts Cannabis Report for We Talk News. Farmers say due to high costs of entry, they have been boxed out of the lucrative cannabis industry. At a cannabis farmers market event held at Worcester dispensary Resonate over the weekend, some farmers were confronted by police but not arrested as they protested the event. Farmers who protested said the title of farmers market was misleading since Resonate and other companies involved are not farmers and have big money backing. Westport farmer Avril Andrade was quoted as saying, "Farmers aren't even getting in the parking lot, let alone sitting at the table. A 20,000 square foot, half-acre canopy of cannabis can change farmers' lives. It can generate 2 to 3 times the money we earn from solar and other uses." The expensive upfront cost barrier remains too high for host community agreements for break-even farmers like Andre. Massachusetts Treasurer Deborah Goldberg on Tuesday announced 5 appointments to the Cannabis Advisory Board. By law, Goldberg, the governor, and the attorney general are required to appoint 5 members to the board. The new appointees and reappointments are Alan Balsam, Marion McNabb, Michael Dundas, as well as former NETA president Amanda Rosatano and CEO of Major Bloom, Lori Luchin. Treasurer Goldberg says she is confident they will have a meaningful impact on the regulation of the cannabis industry across our state. That's this week's Massachusetts Cannabis Report. For We Talk News, I'm Ron Marshallsea.
I like the bumping music. I like the bumping music, all right? All right, again, a shout out to our new friends at the Go Live Vegas studios here, and that would be Aaron Ellikis. And of course, I got to give a plug to my buddy Neil Portnoy, who bailed us out of a critical situation because we weren't able to do a live show. There was no way we were going to do a live show today unless we found our way to this studio. So this studio will always play a role now for us moving forward in our work. And I can probably say that if we all live so long to make it to another year of MJ BizCon, I think we'll be doing shows out of this studio that time next year. I think it's in November of 2022. This is Green Rush Live. It's our regular Business of Cannabis talk show on the Pro Cannabis Media Network. I'm Jimmy Young, the founder of Pro Cannabis Media. And I think I've mentioned I used to be a sports guy in Boston and in Portland, Maine for most of my career. And it's just an amazing thing for me to be able to sit here and talk about cannabis in the open and be accepted and have done over, I think, 350 interviews in the last 2 years. We've had hundreds of thousands of views of our work on YouTube, and it's taken a small village to get this thing going, to be honest with you. And we're very, very, very happy about the future. We're going to be introducing some new programs on our network that I think are going to be very exciting. They're all going to be call-in type programs, if you will, maybe not call-in radio type, but we're talking about here. But you will have the opportunity to have access to some of the amazing guests that we get as we continue to roll out our model and get bigger and bigger. And obviously waving the flag for the cannabis movement in this country. No idea where that's going to go. You know, you heard, I think it was David mention this, or maybe Miguel, one of the callers earlier, about the Farm Bill. The Farm Bill passed, pretty sure it was 2018 December. I'm pretty sure that's when it was passed. You know, the senator from Kentucky that we don't like to name up in the Northeast. Sorry, Senator McConnell. There are people out there that call you names and might even think of you that look like a little turtle. Dr. Seuss character. You know, I'm just saying, you know, I'm just reporting the facts. I don't necessarily have a problem with looking like a turtle, but, you know, he does. In the meantime, he was still instrumental in getting the Farm Bill passed. But what he didn't do was his homework. Okay, now you're going to give him applause. Wow. Sound effects. Oh, that was for me for like my political rant about Yertle the Turtle, Senator McConnell. So the point of where I was going with the Farm Bill was, you know, it's great that he took care of his former tobacco farmers in Kentucky and gave them another crop to grow. But what he really didn't do was any kind of background on what do we do with the hemp that doesn't have illegal amounts of THC in it. And exactly what might we do with the many cannabinoids that are in that hemp plant that we might be able to use in other products that don't get you high. And I'm talking about CBD, cannabidiol. Whew, I said it. I am getting tired, but I still managed to spit that one out. I want applause for Canada. I can't say it the second time. All right, anyway, I give up. The CBD that's out there, and that's just one of the components. Everybody knows that thank you. But better late than... Actually, that's the result. That's actually the reaction I got with the damn mask that I was wearing on the floor of MJ BizCon all week, too. So the point about CBD is that's just one of the cannabidiol components of the cannabis plant. CBN is another one. CBN is another cannabinoid, okay, that helps with sleep. So the CBD has an anti-inflammatory component. But once you take that chemical out of the cannabis plant, how do you get that infused in beverages, in gummies, in other flour? There's a whole industry about CBD. And one guy who's been in this space who works with some really intelligent scientists is a guy named Dean Harris. Dean Harris is a very well-known guy in the media world, marketing world. I'm not going to name some of the other companies that he was involved with, but let's just say you know them because they're major brands in the United States. Now he's involved with this CBD company called Tab Brands. And I had never met Dean Harris before. I ran into him at MJ BizCon this past week. Yes, we developed a friendship over a Zoom call, like so many that we do on Pro Cannabis Media. And this was really the first time I've seen and met him face to face. And we shared a few minutes of conversation out in the back of the hall. And here's that interview. Check it out. Green Rush Live continues here at MJ BizCon, and we've stepped outside so we can take off our masks to actually talk to each other since we're both vaccinated individuals from the Northeast. I'm Jimmy Young from Pro Cannabis Media, and I'm joined by Dean Harris from Tab Brands. This guy understands all the science behind those magical cannabinoids that are in the cannabis plant. Dean, great to see you again.
Thank you.
First of all,
good to see you.
In 3D, because we've really only known each other on Zoom.
Right. We've never met live and in person, so it is a true pleasure. And we liked each other when we met each other virtually, but we really like each other now.
Now we're going home together. No, I'm only kidding. Dean, tell us about Tab Brands and where you are right now.
Sure. So Tab Brands has got a really interesting technology. It's patent pending, and we can take any plant-derived active ingredient and make it water soluble without using these techniques called nanoparticle technology or microemulsion. So the reason that's good is because the finished products are easy to use, convenient. They can be used as part of everyday life. They taste good, which is not always the case in cannabis and CBD. Mm-hmm. They come in an assured dose, which also is rarely the case in cannabis and CBD. They're more bioavailable because they're water soluble, and water soluble products are 4.5 times more bioavailable than lipid soluble, according to an NIH study. And then beyond that, they're safe. So we think that those combination of 5 benefits makes any plant-derived active ingredient useful. And since we spoke last, we've expanded from cannabinoids to other plant-based ingredients. So we have an entire line of medicinal mushroom products. We have something that are called botanical terpenes, which are derived from plants that are not cannabis or CBD or hemp, and they deliver health and wellness benefits independently. When combined with cannabis, they actually provide the entourage effect. And then recently, although this is not legal yet anywhere in the world, we actually just figured out how to make psilocybin into a water-soluble product and microdose it. And I don't know if you've done any work or study of that, but psilocybin and microdosing is going to be a huge market for things like mental wellness, depression. You know, when something makes the front cover of Newsweek, you sort of figure that's made it into the mainstream.
Well, we hope so. And then, I have a mixed feeling about psilocybin products when I'm in the cannabis industry, because I really do believe that we want to get one plant medicine, but normal and accepted.
No, I understand that, but my perspective, I think, is a little different. I think plant medicine has been used in cultures all over the world for tens of thousands of years.
Right.
So the extension of the cannabis plant, or the hemp plant, which are certainly useful, to our technology for other equally useful plants, both individually and in combination, is really interesting. And it's really not a matter of trend, it's a matter of using plants derived from nature, often as an alternative to prescribed medication, which invariably is synthetic.
Right.
So that notion of plant-based, all-natural medicine and wellness products is where we are at Tab Brands.
Right. And there's now starting to be more and more movement towards acceptance of psilocybin, more acceptance of cannabis products being infused in beverages, right?
Yes.
And this is kind of where you see the biggest impact.
Yeah, we think that in general, plant-based medicine should be part of somebody's daily life. So it should taste good, it should be convenient, and it should deliver what you're saying it's going to deliver. So, I mean, I think what's interesting about psilocybin, and I don't want to focus on that, but psilocybin, the way psilocybin's delivered now, it can be delivered in a microdose, which means that it affects the brain, but it doesn't provide that full psychedelic effect. And to me, it's remarkable how much acceptance there is in the medical community already for psilocybin. And it used to be, Timothy Leary and hippies, and now it's almost an accepted medical fact. I mean, when they're studying at Yale Medical School, I mean, I think that's significant, and at Hopkins too, by the way.
Well, Tufts would be good. No, I'm only kidding. I don't want to get into it.
Well, I don't know if it's done at Tufts Medical School, but it could be. But Hopkins and Yale
they're pretty good.
They're not chopped liver.
They're pretty good. I just have to wave the flag of the alma mater. I just have to do that.
I didn't go to either Yale or Hopkins.
And I didn't go to med school, so there you go. But what I want to ask you now is, how do people find out about your product, and how do they get that? Because I know that you can't just go to the store and buy infused products.
Right. Well, we do have a direct-to-consumer brand.
Yep.
Just because I'm a direct-to-consumer marketing, so I felt like I sort of had to.
Yes.
And that brand is called Sigh, S-I-G-H. The website is hellosci.com, so one can buy directly online.
There you go.
But most of what we do is B2B, and most of what we do is providing our material as ingredients or white label for other people. And our goal, I think I told you this the last time, but we've actually achieved it. We want to be global. So in the last month, we just did 2 licensing deals where we've licensed our IP to Europe. We signed a deal with a partner in Croatia to serve the EU market, and then we just signed a deal in Colombia to serve the South American market. So our goal is to try to make these useful products useful every day to the extent that we can.
That's right. Dean Harris, Tab Brands.
Yes.
Great to meet you in person.
I agree.
I think that's one of the most beautiful things about the trade shows that are back now is relationships have actually started on Zoom, and now you have an opportunity to see the person, shake their hand, give them a hug.
It's better.
It's much better, and it also goes to the whole plant situation that this plant brings the world together. It's designed for socialization. It's designed to improve.
It has. It's designed for socialization. It's actually designed to make people feel better, and it's actually designed in certain cases to give people a high.
Right.
And those are the 3 primary uses. And when it exists in native cultures and indigenous cultures all over the world, there's something to it.
Absolutely. There's something to Tab Brands and Dean Harris too. He's been a friend of Pro Cannabis Media for a couple of years now, and it's an awesome honor to actually shake your hand.
Thank you, sir.
And see you again.
Great.
Green Rush Live continues after this break. All right, we're back. We're back. Yeah, I know. I'm back. I just sit here and look at the camera and listen to the music, and I can't wait for my nap. That's what I'm looking forward to right now. I got to tell you, it's been a long week here in Las Vegas, but a great week. And met some new friends and found some new people that I had never seen in real life before. Dean Harris from Tab Brands, just one of them. We've got some great interviews during the week. A one-on-one with Nick Roberts from Green Spoon Martyr. You've seen their logo. Congratulations to them on 40 years of being in business. And they are going to be more and more prominent on our network, we hope, moving forward in many, many ways. I hope Nick Richards, one of their lead attorneys there, is a great guy, really intelligent, very passionate about the cause. You have to be in this space. They'll be joining us in the future. And a special shout out again to Adaptive HR and Scott Newman and Brian Wall over there. We'll have a big story about their trek to Las Vegas over the next couple of days on Pro Cannabis Media as we churn out all the content that we created here. First time in my life, not only did I talk to a styrofoam gorilla, a foam gorilla guy that tried to name Massive B Ape and resurrect some old college memories I have, but we also had a really cool story with a guy named Brandon Fokin. I'm pretty sure I pronounced his name correctly there. He is a cannabis advocate, but also had this very rare monkey. And I've never had a monkey on my back before. I've had monkeys come off my back before, and this one actually did too. But in this particular case, it was a real one. Little bit of a thing. Very cool interview. And what does it have to do with cannabis? Well, you're going to have to watch it to find out, because it's a really interesting angle. And I think we're going to get more and more involved with the cause, because there's a reason to save some endangered species, and that's related to what we're going to be talking about with in that interview. Great interview with Nikki Lawley, again, a dear friend now, and someone I care a great deal about. And that too will be shared on our Pro Cannabis Media outlets over the next couple of days. There's a few other little tricks and other people that we've talked to. Dimitri Downing, that interview, you'll definitely see parts of that on the Interstate Commerce Show that will be at this same time frame next week on our social media platform network when we look at interstate commerce with David Rabinovitz and Kurt Dalton from Cannabis.net. We'll be co-hosting that show. I'll be at the top, but I'm going to be spending my time in the chat room and interacting a little bit more from that perspective with our viewers. And again, let me just think, is there something else? Did I, Dan, anything off the top of your head? There's so many other interviews out there that we've done, and we'll be sharing with you all those interviews as much as we can over the next few days and the next week or so. And then I'm sure at some point we're going to string them all together and have them all in one big long-form content that's all logged so you know exactly where the Green Spoon Martyr little panel was and perhaps some other things. Oh, and of course, that interview, I did mention it earlier, Chris Walsh, who's the CEO of MJ Biz Daily, he always does a state of the industry address at the beginning of the conference, but he also comes out to the press room during the conference and takes questions from the media, the working media. I happened to be working that day, and I happened to qualify as working media, so I too was part of that and enjoyed seeing him. And a special shout out to Tess Woods, their PR director, who's from our neck of the woods in Massachusetts, and she does a great job. And I got to tell you, it's a tough thing to handle. All these elements, all these rules, all these people, all about cannabis. And that's really why we started Pro Cannabis Media in the first place, is to give an outlet for people to talk about this amazing plant and the role that it's played in our history and why it continues to grow as a real major industry in our business structure. And maybe one day some of the traditional media that's out there that only looks for the negative in some stories, maybe they'll actually notice about some of the stuff what we're doing over here at PCM TV. So for Dan French and Sarah Galt, our social media person, and Isabel Turner, our production coordinator, our new bestie here in Las Vegas, Aaron Elikis from Go Live Vegas. Make sure you download his app on the Apple App Store and the Google Play Store. Will we ever get an app, you think, Dan? Are we ever going to get an app? We'll get an app maybe one day. We'll figure it out as we go along. That's what we do at Pro Cannabis Media. So for everybody I mentioned, and if I forgot anybody, my apologies. I'm exhausted. I can't wait to get back to the Eastern Time Zone. We will continue the cause on Pro Cannabis Media, PCM TV. Like, share, subscribe, tell your friends, tell your parents, tell your family, tell your neighbors, wake your neighbors. But remember, it's a whole new world of weed out there. Use it responsibly. Thanks for watching.